I actually had tenants move into a home of ours that we were managing for a client, and the tenants were paying rent on time. They were sound tenants. They kept the property well maintained. Upon the initial property evaluation at the 6-month mark, we go there to inspect the property and walk inside to find that half of the walls had been painted black without our permission. Initially, you can feel the shock that was inside of my system, the concern that I had for the property and how we were going to get it back to normal. Immediately issued a letter to the tenants stating that they were in violation of their lease agreement because they did not get this paint approved. Some of the things that we had put in place beforehand was putting them on a resident benefit package, which actually allowed for us to file a claim on their behalf in the event that the property was not returned to us and the state of condition that it was when they leased the property. 2 months prior to that 1-year lease ending, we submitted a non-renewal letter to the tenants because their job status had changed and they no longer paid rent on time. And at this point, they were already eating up a bunch of late fees, and we had already determined that we would like to break ways with each other, and at the end of the lease, we were going to move on and turn the property over and look for another qualified tenant to place in the property that hopefully would follow the rules. At the end of the inspection, we also noticed that the tenant who had pets that were approved decided to leave their pets in while they were moving all of their furniture out of the house. The pets became, I guess, had a little anxiety, and they were left in a room for a long time, and probably going to be some damages done to the doors where the pets were scratching at the doors. But because we had this tenant protection, we were able to file a claim not only for the paint, but also to recoup some of the losses that we had experienced with those pets being left in the property over time. These are just some of the stories that we go through day in, day out as property managers. And while we like to step in and help you and put those mitigation steps, procedures, and then have our operations set out that way in advance, that way, you know, if we run into issues such as the one I just described, that it can be handled appropriately, swiftly, and then we can get your property back on the market again so you can begin getting that income. It doesn't happen too often, and that's one reason why we do recommend doing property evaluations to go in to keep those tenants honest. Sometimes tenants will glaze over a contract in the excitement of moving into a place. All they think about is, what is the security deposit? What's my first month's rent? And are there any other fees so that I can move in, begin living my life the way I want to live it? And they don't hold in regards to each paragraph of the lease agreement that they're initialing off, stating that they will follow the rules and what their obligations are to that contract. So it's rare, but it does happen. So as an investor, you may not have, 100% of the control all the time when it comes to what happens to your property or what the tenants may do. But because we have processes in place, that's one reason why you should employ us as property manager for your property. That way, that when those things do happen, if they do occur, that we're able to step in and mitigate the time that it takes to turn that property around and begin giving you cash flow again back in your pocket as an investor. And you just let us handle that. As a self-managing landlord, you're gonna have to step in and do all those things yourself. And that actually takes away from your day-to-day life, your other job you may have, and your family time. This is why you hire a property manager who knows what they're doing and actually has processes and procedures to help you mitigate some of the risks that could occur. So as an investor, this property that you bought as an investment, that was supposed to be passive income. So now put yourself in place. If something happens and you're having to deal with warranty companies, you're having to deal with different vendors to get your property turned back around again, this is taking time out of your day of what you do as your primary job. Step in and get your property from bleeding income and slowing down cash flow when you have to turn or add new renters back in. One time, I worked with an investor and became their property manager. They allowed us to come in and do full property management services, which includes us marketing the property, screening tenants, placing quality tenants, lease prep, all the way through signature, and then managing full services after the fact. One Friday evening, we got a phone call that the water heater was no longer working properly. And in our lease agreement and property management agreement, this is known as an emergency issue. So I contacted contacted the investor and let them know that I was going to be sending one of our vetted and quality plumbing companies out to take a look at that service and see what it would cost to get the hot water heater back operational again. Upon receiving a call from the plumber when they arrived on scene, they then stated what the issue was and how much it was going to cost to fix it. At that time, it was just around $500 and only a couple hours without hot or cold water while they repaired it. Then they also flushed the water heater and done some preventive maintenance on it as well so that it works more optimally than it does before and there's no soot in the bottom of it, all the stuff that rises to the bottom of hot water heaters. But at that time, the investor was not happy. One, because he had a father-in-law, if you will, that also worked as a handyman, and he wanted to step in and employ his father to do these services. However, his father was out of town and it was going to take over 3 days before the tenant would have had that issue resolved. But at this time, because of the property management company that we are, we offered to break contract with this investor only because not every relationship works the same, and sometimes we have to part ways because it's not a good fit. Yeah, that guy was pretty upset. We handled it with professionalism. What I did state to him at that time was, we offer a lease-only contract, which means that if you would like to take care of the phone calls, the maintenance work orders, if you feel like you have the staff prepared to go out and fix anything that happens when it happens, then you can do so. But you're just not an expert in marketing and renting your property or setting the price range for your property to get a quality tenant. You don't have the tools in place to screen tenants, run background checks, do credit reports, and you don't have a lease that is vetted by an attorney and legal for the state of Tennessee to put in place to protect you in the event that you need to do anything as a landlord. Then we also offer that service as well for a set fee. In the state of Tennessee, you know, when a tenant is in place at a property that you own, when you try to take care of the maintenance yourself, you're putting yourself in a risky situation that is unnecessary. In the event that something happens at that property and you don't respond quick enough, it could damage your property even more than needs be. And also, you could be facing a potential lawsuit from the tenant if it affects the way they live. They could withhold rent from you because something is not repaired on time. And that's why, you know, it's important that if you do hire a property manager, that they're able to respond according to the guidelines that they list in their property management agreement, and they're gonna take the risk from you so that you don't have to be the problem or in the face of all the problems. Essentially, you're just giving thumbs up or thumbs down or approving things in advance that can be taken care of so that you can continue on with life. No one wants to be on vacation, enjoying the beach, getting that pesky phone call or a text message that is unwanted from their resident while they're trying to spend time with their family. I understand, you know, why some owners feel like, hey, it's just 1 or 2 properties. I would like to take care of those maintenance issues myself. But with them being anything having to deal with emergency type issues like hot and cold air, hot and cold water, flooding of those natures, like time is of the essence. And what a property manager will do is they will step in and begin to triage and take action on some of those things. Sometimes fixing a hot water heater may take, you know, the standard self-managing landlord a couple of days because they have to source parts, they got to find a handyman who can do something if they don't do it right, or you don't fix it right the first time and you have to revisit. Now you are interrupting the tenant's right to quiet enjoyment of that property that they're paying rent for, and that will cause them to then withhold rent or badmouth you or bother you, you know, when you don't want problems from the tenant, and it just breaks up that communication. So when you put someone in as a buffer, as a property manager, they're essentially your liaison, right? You're behind the scenes, they're the face of the scene. They're there to help you, to communicate with the tenant, to ease the problems, to let them know that their problems are heard, which is primarily the reason why they get upset. When they feel like the landlord is not responding to their needs and desires and the things that matter to them the most, heating, air, cold air in the summertime, hot and cold water when they're trying to take a bath or shower for their kids, like this means something to them. They feel like they're paying their hard-earned money, and especially in today's economy, that's not anything you can take lightly. As a landlord, you're gonna have to follow the eviction laws that are governed here in the state of Tennessee. The rent is gonna be late on that 6th day, and you're gonna have to issue that pay or vacate. Do you have time to type one of those up? Emailing them sometimes doesn't always get the attention, so now you gotta drive to the property. Are you in and out of state? You have to post the warning on the door, and then you have to wait for that next 14 days to see if they respond. After that, you're in court filing completely for an eviction, bringing all your paperwork and documentation that you have on the situation. Hopefully you collected it, and you're gonna state your case to the judge. At that point, you're looking at 30 to 60 days before the entire process is completed. Meanwhile, while you're waiting for the sheriff to go with you over to the property to take it back, hopefully they've moved out and left it in good condition, but that all is gonna matter on the type of relationship you've had with the tenant over time. Not every tenant's gonna leave a property in good condition once they know they have to be evicted out of it. Sometimes they don't even take all their stuff, and now you have to bring a junk removal company or do it yourself, and you're putting that stuff on the curb no matter what time it is, because every day lost is more money out of your pocket. I'm Darius Harper. I'm the owner of Real Property Management Marble City. I do single family homes and small multifamily for property management here in East Tennessee. Your job is to do what you do on a day-to-day and spend time with your family. When you get an investment property, you're looking for passive income. My job is to protect your investment, help you build cash flow, and then to take care of those things that you don't necessarily want to take care of on a day-to-day basis. So why not reach out and work with us? You can either click the link below or give us a phone call at 865-265-0535.